All right, Mark here, and welcome to another Greenbridge Investing market analysis. So today's Friday, and I didn't put the link in the chat room because I figured probably not many people will be around. So you'll be able to watch this after the fact, although I am streaming it in real time for everyone. So in this session, I'm going to be covering Bitcoin, major markets, and a couple of stocks as we come to the market close. So this will be very helpful for early next week. All right, the Sunday night open and what to anticipate for the week ahead. So let's get started. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Now, let's begin with Bitcoin. Again, I like to keep these things about 15 minutes. Hey, Michael, how are you? Thanks for joining me. Like I just said, I didn't put this in the chat room because I figured no one's going to be in there and on a Friday at this time, really. So I just figured I'd just stream it, and hey, whoever sees the notification, great. So welcome. Feel free to ask questions as I go along here. And you just got me at the beginning too. So let's cover Bitcoin first. Great move on Bitcoin here, okay? We've been talking about this for weeks and weeks and weeks. In fact, we had a trade signal, an aggressive trade signal at 70.5, which was back here. I'm sorry, 70.25 back here. Now, I was looking at that a little more carefully, and I know some of our people took that. It depends on the broker that you took that with, because if you took it with Bitfinex, the trade stayed in, the trade is good. If you took this with Coinbase, it got stopped out actually right here, right like 15 points. The stop was 64.85, and the stop is 64.72. So that's going to really be broker dependent. That's why I don't like these dumb brokers. The differences in the prices. So some people may still be in that aggressive trade, some may not. But our original trade from 57.50, that's obviously still in play, and they reached their first targets, okay? So that's a nice thing, and obviously we have more targets to go. I mean, if we look at that, if I go to my other Bitcoin chart here, right, this is the one that has the aggressive trade on it. Target one was 74.25, so we reached that. The next target's 80.25. So hopefully people are still in that, and you're benefiting. Otherwise, you know what? I mean, there was actually a buy signal here, but we're not going to keep calling these things. If we have two trades out there, we're not going to just keep putting more and more trades, especially at such an aggressive area. But this was a nice buy signal. We didn't mention this one, the little inside bar there. But either way, Bitcoin's pushing this resistance, and going into the next week, we're anticipating this thing to be through this resistance zone, which is above 8,000 into the mid 8,000s based on this structure. And we have another higher low, by the way. Well, good question, Michael. Good question. Well, are you talking about Bitcoin or are you talking about the market? And here's the thing. You mentioned that word opinion, and I like that you mentioned that word because I really don't have an opinion. My outlook comes from the price structure, from the market, right? So as long as we have these higher lows in place, that to me is a sign of strength. We have not even tested the 64.25. We never really tested that higher low, okay? We have this new higher low now, and we haven't even tested that yet. So as long as those stay intact, Michael, I'm anticipating higher highs. Now, I'm not one to take breakout trades, but we have this breakout going on over here. Okay, yeah. That's why that's why I'm bullish, because we have a higher low and it should push a higher high. Now this higher high, remember, you have a lot of shorts that got caught here, shorting these lower highs, thinking that it's a double top and all that other stuff, not realizing the structure that we're dealing with here. And this main support at this, what is that? The 6,000 level and the 64.25 level, those supports haven't even been touched. So that's a sign of strength. And well, we have target one. That's just target one. We have two other targets, which means we're only getting out of 1/3 of the position. So we still have 2/3. And let this thing run. It's always a good habit to be in, to take profits when you can, right? Because who knows, this thing may pull back, right? This thing may go to 6,000 out of nowhere on some dumb news, right? It can happen. So we'd rather reduce risk on the way up, even though I'm pretty confident that this thing is going to go higher. Either way, I would still take money off the table, right? It's a good habit to be in, right? Reduce risk, take profits while you can at these resistance levels because we are still in a resistance level and anything can happen here. Okay. I'm just very bullish again because the structure says be bullish. And, you know, that's that. Does that make sense? Good questions, by the way. And thanks for asking them. I'm going to move on to the NASDAQ right now because the market's still open and I wanted to go over a couple of stocks and what's going on there. So, and again, Michael, if you have questions, please ask away. If I can't answer it in full detail in here, I definitely will get to it in the chat room. All right, so now look at the NASDAQ, another one. So we've been talking about, in fact, Andrew talked about an IWM short in this zone, right? IWM is the Russell 2000. And this was a resistance zone that, sure, selling activity made sense here. We got some short signals. In fact, we got two of them. Okay, we have one over here and we have this pin bar that occurred yesterday, right? Now, what did I say though in the chat room? I said, you know, this could fake out. Again, just like Bitcoin, we have a strong support at this now, this 8,078, basically 8,100 area. We have another higher low established. Higher lows typically lead to higher highs. So yes, we have this resistance that we're dealing with, but this market is strong. And we're about to close on a Friday, you know, in 20 minutes on the high. This is not a short. This is not what shorts look like. Okay. Now, maybe early next week, maybe it'll fail. Maybe it'll give us a double top. But as long as it continues to look like this, I'm anticipating the breakout, which means great for stocks, right? So if you're long stocks, there's really, or like we've been telling people, partial out, take partial profits, get out, you know, out of some of your stocks while you can. And yes, I would still do that. Okay. But I wouldn't unload everything because this thing has some room to run here and you want to give it that chance to run. So Michael, again, you mentioned that word opinion before. You can't have opinions. You know, people get consumed with the news. They watch all this stuff and they don't realize that subconsciously it gives you a bias. And I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. I only look at the price action and the charts and basically the structure. And that's where I get my opinion from. When these change, I'll change. But the market says strong. I'm looking for strength, right? It's that simple. So I want to talk about a couple of stocks in this situation that are something that's taking place right now. By the way, I'm doing a webinar on Sunday. I didn't send out the invitations yet, but I'm going to on day trading. So it's going to be like an intro and how to consider certain things in that space. So I'm going to be sending it out either today or tomorrow. So make sure you come to that if you can. All right, let's get into the DAX. Now, like I said, people that follow the DAX, this thing is following the S&P and the NASDAQ. Now today, you know, the DAX didn't close very strong. Maybe because the markets were a little more mixed earlier. I don't know. But I would not expect this thing to be going lower if the S&P and the NASDAQ are going higher. So you have this consolidation here between 10,250 and this high, which is 10,790 area, that consolidation. Price breaks out or closes above that consolidation, you have a breakout on your hands, which means price will probably go higher. Now, why am I so confident about price going higher after a breakout, especially since I'm not a breakout trader? Because of this particular situation, we have a lower high, which means it lured a lot of shorts, and when it breaks out, they have to cover. So that squeeze is much more likely than buying a breakout near a high, like a real high, you know, like this kind of high, like way up here. Those are the kind of breakouts I'm skeptical of because that's where there are more longs most likely than shorts that are in the market, and the longs are likely to get pushed out, which, you know, that's what we saw here, you know, after the fact, of course. But that's what I'm anticipating here with this thing. So if you're in European denominated assets, I know, Michael, you're in the Eurozone. Again, you can use this to time your management of those, especially over the shorter term. Right now, this is not a place to sell, although it never hurts to lock in something if you have profits, right? Never hurts. I don't care how great the market looks, and it looks like if it's going to go higher for the next, 3 months, I don't care. It's still a good habit to get into. Take something off the table because it can turn out of nowhere. Remember, markets are highly random. And all you need is a little piece of news to come out, on Sunday or something. And you're like, oh, I should have got out what I could. That's why you get in that habit. Okay, let's go into oil. If you don't have any questions about the DAX, I want to show you oil. Oil has been very interesting recently. We've been watching this for a long signal. You know, why long? I mean, this thing has been bearish and bearish and bearish, right? Lower highs and lower lows. But although the futures contract went to zero, in theory, oil should not go to zero, okay? I don't know what that was all about, by the way. But the thing is, we had this bullish pin bar. This thing still needs to stabilize more before we can go long. We are still interested in an aggressive long for oil, but it needs to show confirmation, okay? It needs to show a much better structure than this. So, you know, some people say, well, then why don't you short it? Because this is a tough area to short. We are at some major lows here. And there are going to be, this is a very attractive area for longs. There's just no reason to get long yet. You know, so that's where the conflict is. We have bearish structure. Everything says bearish. Now, if you're short term and you're like day trading, that's what I mean by short term, then sure, there's opportunity here to go short, take your profits and get out. But this is, you know, for swing trades, to get short here is very risky because you have all this potential reversal area, okay? Back up to this 28 area. That's a lot of potential. I'd rather try to take that long. So again, for those of you that are new and maybe listening to this for the first time, you know, we don't just get into something on a hunch or just because, you know, we feel like it's a good long and blah, blah, blah. The market needs to provide evidence. And right now there's nothing here. There's no reason to get long, although the reward risk is attractive, okay? And it's in a great location probability wise. We just have to be a little more patient with that. All right, so that's oil. We're just going to sit back and wait. Now, let me go over, I got a couple of stocks here. Let me see how, am I talking too long here? No, I'm okay. All right, I'm going to mention the euro really quick because we are looking at a swing trade long for the euro. Let me see, is this the chart? I want to show the clean chart. Okay, look at this. Now, obviously, we're not going to call this today. And the reason is it's Friday. We don't want to take a long, plus, you know, we have the pin bar, which is nice, right? The high of this pin bar is 81.98, so basically 82. So you figure the trigger will be like around 82.05, maybe 82.10, something like that. But why aren't we calling this today? Michael, do you know? I'm sure because you watch all my videos, so you probably know why we're not going to send this idea out today. But if you're not sure, the reason why is because it's Friday and anything can happen between Saturday and Sunday, right? We don't want to take that chance. Plus, there's no trigger. I know the trigger price, but the bar is still open. I need it to close, right? So Sunday night into Monday, this may be an opportunity for a swing trade long, and we're going to be watching this very carefully. All right, love the location. It's a failed low, and love the reversal pattern right there. And there's a lot of potential in this euro too. This thing can run. Right. This thing can run into like, you know, at least 100, 150 pips without much of a problem. I mean, this is basically range bound. This is not even a trend. So we like the potential. The reward risk makes sense. This would probably be like a 1% risk because the ranges are very wide. But yeah, you're right. You got it, Michael. That's why. So, you know, why take more risk than you have to, right? So we're going to wait on that. We just follow our rules. We don't just jump into things. We follow rules. And the rules say, wait till Sunday night or Monday. So that's what we're going to do there. Now, let me get into the stocks. And by the way, if you have a stock that you want to see real quick, just type it into the channel and I will, I'll take a look at it real quick. But I want to talk about two stocks. I want to start with PRLB. Now, this is one that Andrew's talked about a lot, Proto Labs. They're a 3D printer. And look at this breakout. Okay, yesterday we had the bearish pin bar, didn't touch the low of that pin bar. We took out this resistance area at 82.74, which was an important resistance. And look how we're going to close today, right? We have 15 minutes before this closes. This is a breakout. And the selling activity, which occurred yesterday, has been absorbed, right? That tail has been absorbed. This, if you're long PRLB, this is great. You just sit back and let this thing ride to the next resistance. This would be the type of signal where I would add some, okay? So again, this is for educational purposes. I'm not giving you an official trade here, but if I had some PRLB, you know, you take another small bite. Let's just say you had 50 shares or 100 shares from a lower price. Near the close, you put on another 50 or 100. They're a little higher risk because, you know, what if on Monday or on Tuesday or Sunday evening there's some negative news, you know, and the market gap's lower on Monday, this thing may be lower, right? But based on this structure, That's strong, and that's a breakout. So if you're in from a great price, like I said, and you want to put on more risk, not a bad area to take another small bite. That's the type of breakout that I like. All right, and I don't like breakouts, like I said. So just wanted to put that out there for educational purposes. Even if you don't take it, I want you to learn from it to see, sometimes you like wonder, where should I add? Well, that's the type of example where you can put on a little bit more. But notice I'm not saying you put on the full thing, just a little bit. Okay, maybe a fraction, like a quarter or an eighth of normally what you do. Okay, now that's PRLB. So the next resistance on this thing, by the way, is around the like 92 area. Up here, 93 area, right? That's the next resistance. So we got some room to play with there. That's what I like about that, especially if the stock market pushes that higher high, which it is in position to do. Okay, so let me get the Uber on here, because Uber is in the same situation. Look at this, breakout. I talked about this in my video on Wednesday, right? Around this 2883 level. Breakout, and look how we're going to close. Again, this is a type where I would add a little bit. So if I was long, again, 50 shares, 100 shares, this wouldn't be a bad situation to put on maybe another 25 shares as an example. Again, I'm not giving you an official trade idea. I want that to be clear, but I want you to see what it looks like. What would be a reasonable situation to put on a little bit more, to add a little bit to a winning position. That's what it looks like. Okay, some questions. Carlos. USO or USL as instruments for trading oil. Well, okay. So, all right. So, and Michael, are we taking trades with the indices at these levels? You know what, Michael? Good question. So let me answer that. That's a simpler question. The indices are at their highs, but they should push higher. So taking trades, small bites, right? I'm not saying you put on your full positions here. Small bites, you're compensating for that risk that, we pull back. Okay, now let me just go back to the NASDAQ here. I mean, look at this. This is a higher low, and in theory should make a higher high. If it makes that higher high, adding that small bite, should be beneficial, because you're going along with the market, betting basically that the market's going to make a higher high, which is that structure is telling us it wants to do. Okay. So, but taking on a full-on position, let's say, 500 shares, your normal full position, you shouldn't do that here. Okay, this is not the place to do that. You take on a fraction because you're not at a low. This is not the low. This is nearer a high. So you have to compensate for that risk. Okay, does that answer your question? Now, Carlos, USO or USL, those ETNs or ETFs, they're kind of, I'm not a huge fan because of what they're made up of, and Andrew will tell you the same thing. One thing you can consider as an alternative is something like Marathon Petroleum or VLO. That's what Andrew would rather get into. He's mentioned that a few times. Let me see if I could show you Marathon Petroleum, if I have it here. MPC, I believe, is the ticker. So those are refiners, and they're in a much better position to benefit than USO. I think the problem with USO, this is not a great looking chart. Let's take a look at VLO. Valero is another one. They kind of look the same. They all got double tops. I mean, I would wait on that a little bit. USO. Oof. Yeah. I mean, that looks just like oil, and I guess it should. But the point is, relatively speaking, VLO and MPC actually are in better, they're much stronger, relatively stronger than USO. So he likes those better because they have some more fundamental value to them. And if oil improves, they're in a much better position to improve. So that's my answer for that. Let me see USL. What's USL? Yeah, these again, if you're really into these, then yeah. But like I said, the more the instruments that have a better value proposition would be something like MPC or one of those. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so great questions. Any other questions? Great questions. And thanks for joining me here. I'm trying to fix my chart. My chart's all messed up. Okay, there we go. Okay, so if I don't have any other questions, I'm going to wrap this up. Any other charts you want to see? Any other stocks real quick? I went over my time, but if I have people here that are interested, hey, I'll show you. Any other stocks you'd like to see? Another one while we're here. Another one I like. Another one that I keep a close eye on is Square. See Square? Square is another one that's like in that breakout mode here. Let me see if I pull Square. Look at this. Well, it doesn't look as better. It doesn't look as good as the other ones, but keeping an eye on that. All right, you guys. So thank you again for joining me. Again, if you have questions that maybe I didn't get to, then please ask in the chat room. And make sure you join me for the webinar on Sunday. We're going to do that webinar on day trading. And I'm going to talk about the rewards and risks. Oh, Square. You know what? I'm giving that thing a chance to break through 64, Michael. Giving that thing a chance, especially with the market as strong as it is. I wouldn't add to that one because that one doesn't have the same breakout pattern. Okay? That's if it did, I would say sure, but no. I'm looking to lighten up on that one, not add more. Look at the charts. Look at the charts that I went over and see if you could see the difference. And we'll talk about that in the chat room, okay? See if you could see the difference between PRLB, Uber, and Square. And why I would add to something like PRLB and why I would not add to something like Square. All right? Great questions. Again, so like I said, join me for the webinar on Sunday. That's at 3 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be sending out the invite either tonight or tomorrow, so you should get that in your email. All right, come with your questions. It's going to be a very interesting session. Like I said, I'm going to be talking about the rewards and risks of day trading and give you some interesting examples. Okay? All right, you guys, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and I'll speak to you soon in the chat room. Okay? All right, take care. Bye.